Hi, hello, good evening, my young officers. This is Dr. Nishana Jumudi, expert in Indian economy and current affairs. So, in today's session, we'll have a quick look into 2024 UPSC Prelims examination question paper. So, in this video, we'll not be doing a complete analysis of the entire paper. Rather, the economy portion of it will be discussed in a holistic manner. So, we all know that compared to the previous year question paper, the current 2024 UPSC prelims was far better in terms of the difficulty level. It was easy to moderate, and many candidates came out with a smiling face from the examination hall, and that indeed showed that their hard works are paid off. Let's hope for the best when the results come. Anyways, as always, we all know that economy as a subject has a greater weightage with regard to UPSC examination. In this year also, a decent number of questions came from the subject economy. 15 to 18 questions were there from Indian economy for the UPSC prelims examination. And as always, if you see, the most important hit list area is money and banking. And almost 7 questions came from banking and finance. And the remaining 3 were some government schemes. Followed by the other areas were dealing with infrastructure. Some concepts were totally direct. From NCRT, I would say, like the sectors of economy, what activities are from, let's say, for example, which activity belongs to which sector, or let's say, what is fixed capital, working capital. So they were very direct and basic. So overall, if you see, a strong understanding of the fundamentals or basics of Indian economy is very vital, followed by the application and the trending current affairs. So now all those who have followed the 3C method of approach, which I have been taking in the class for all the batches, will fairly do great for this exam. It's not necessary that only the so-called intelligent candidate will clear this exam. No, even an average well-read student, if he or she is very thorough with the concepts, followed by the application and the current of interengaging of them with the current affairs, at least out of 18 questions, 11 to 12 questions from the current UPSC prelims paper, the candidate can easily solve. This is the basic analysis I'm telling you. So anyways, let's quickly have a look into the questions and answers. Okay. So the very first question deals with union budget. So the first statement tells the Union Finance Minister on behalf of PM lays the annual financial statement before both the House of Parliament. And now the second statement talks about at the union level, no demand for a grant can be made except on the recommendation of President of India. From this particular statement, or let's say the question, it is very evident that the first one is incorrect because the keyword Prime Minister, that itself indicates that it is a wrong statement. We all know that it is not on behalf of the PM, but rather the President of India, right? And now the second statement, at the union level, yes, it is true. There is no need for any demand for grant, but there is an exception, and that exception again can be done with whom? With the recommendation of President of India. Now, in this particular question, or let's say in this series of questions, one particular thing which every candidate should keep in mind is that this year UPSC believed a lot in elimination technique. So as always, whenever I used to take classes, I used to teach you people the exclusive KEZ technique. You remember? Keyword elimination comparison technique. That is to identify what is a keyword. Over here, what is a keyword? Before reading the statement, the keyword is to identify the correct statement, because many a times UPSC can trick the candidate using the keyword correct, incorrect, not correct and all. So just to avoid silly and careless mistake, we cross verify. Once that is done, the next keyword analysis should be focused on the question. Here it is based on union budget. And now moving on to the second one, that is elimination technique. So now before understanding which are the statements or options to be eliminated, you should start comparing the keyword of the question, the secondary keyword of the question with the given statement. For that, the comparison technique of KC will be useful. So now budget is a keyword. And now we all know that the highest authority, or let's say budget, the recommendations, all these things are done by the president. So now, having understood that, you will be able to eliminate what? The first option, because the first option talks about the PM here, right? So now once you eliminate option 1, use the elimination technique, come to the given code. Option A tells only 1, B 2, C 1 and 2, and D neither 1 or 2. So now option A and D is fatafat eliminated because they have 1 there. So out of B and C, we have to make a, sorry, option A, C and D is fatafat eliminated. So what remains is B, and automatically you came to know that using the elimination technique, 101% the answer is 2. So this is how you will use the keyword elimination comparison technique. You can refer to the previous videos for exclusive detailed understanding of the same. Take care. So now, having said that, what is this demand for grant? That is indeed another important keyword. If you see from this particular topic, demand for grant, appropriation bill, CFI, Consolidated Fund of India, Contingency Fund of India, Public Accounts of India, all these are related hit list topics. Even for the upcoming examinations also, they can ask you questions from these. If you see the previous year question papers, again, many questions have come from these related area. See, it's all connected. UPSC never asks any question out of the box. It is always interrelated in some or the other way. It is just that you need to find out from where they are asking. You understand? So now, what is demand for grant, by the way? So if you see this demand for grant, basically it includes the estimate of what the expenditures from the CFI, that is the Consolidated Fund of India, which is called as a treasury for the Government of India. All the revenue from any sources, tax, non-taxes, whatever, is being kept in the CFI. If the government wants to withdraw any fund from CFI means, then a bill called as appropriation bill has to be passed. And this demand for grant is what? A request, or let's say a demand made by the ministries or departments for withdrawal of fund. You understand? And now, if anybody wants to, withdraw money, or let's say a demand for grant is to be placed means it can be done only on the recommendation of president, and no money can be withdrawn from the CFI unless an appropriation bill has also been passed. So this is some of the important points which you have to keep in mind. Okay. Now, having said that, this particular demand for grant, it comes where in Article 113 of the Constitution. Okay. 113 in the sense that this particular, demand for grant, which is in the form of estimates, it is supposed to be voted in the Lok Sabha, and then they are submitted in what? Pursuance of Article 113 of the Constitution. Now, having said that, the next question deals with syndicate lending. This is from banking again. So, syndicated lending spreads the risk of borrower default across multiple lenders. Second, the syndicated loan can be a fixed amount or lump sum of funds, but cannot be a credit line. In this particular question, if you see, using the KEZ technique, what is the keyword? Identify the correct statement. Next is syndicated lending from the statements we understood. So now, we all know that syndicate lending or syndicate borrowing, right? What is basically that? This particular concept, it talks about giving money to certain people. A group of lenders will give money to the required eligible people, right? So now this particular syndicated loan is a financing offered by the syndicate, and this syndicate is made up of what? A group of lenders who work towards providing money or funds to the borrower. It is not like anybody can avail loans under syndicate loan. The eligible people, or let's say the borrowers for this syndicate loan, can be a corporation, or let's say a large project, or a sovereign government. So now whenever a loan has been given, automatically, yes, it do spread the risk of what? Borrower default, right? So that is why the first statement is correct. But what about the second one? The second one tells that though this loan can be a fixed amount or a lump sum, a large amount of funds, it cannot be a credit line. Now, can you see the keyword cannot? Now in UPSC, there is something called as extreme keyword. So now extreme keywords are NOT, not, only, whole, cannot, inclusively, exclusively, fully, within, etc., etc. So now the rule is that 95% chance is there for any statement with the presence of such extreme keywords to be incorrect. Out of 100, let's say only 5% chance is there, for a statement. In spite of having an extreme keyword in it, it can be correct. For that, the method of comparison out of KC you have to apply. So anyways, if you see over here, this extreme keyword cannot makes you think, or let's say recheck the question once again. Will it be correct or incorrect? And yes, if you see, because of the extreme keyword cannot, the second one happens to be incorrect. Okay. And the answer is C. 1 is correct, 2 is wrong. So basically, if you see this particular syndicated loan, it involves large amount of money. No doubt in that. And when there is a large amount of money, look at this. Automatically, too much of money, too much of risk. Again, the first and the second statements are connected. If syndicated loan is having lump sum of money, obviously the risk is too much. You understand? And that is spread among multiple lenders. This multiple lenders means several financial institutions. Why? Why do they do that? In order to reduce the impact in case the borrower is failing to repay it. And who are the borrowers here? Corporations, a project, or a sovereign government. This is what you should know with regard to syndicate lending or loan. Now, the next important thing is, this is also an important hit list topic for the current batch students also. Let's say 5 to 6 days back, I think 5 days back, if I'm not wrong, on June 11, 2024, this month, there was an article based on this syndicate loan. That is, the context was that recently an NBFC, non-banking financial company, they announced that they have raised US dollar 425 million and euro 40 million through a syndicated loan. In that particular context, this topic was discussed. So you can just mark it as a hit list topic for the coming year also. Take care. Now, there is one more point you have to note here, something called as credit line. Credit line matlab line of credit, keeping a limit up to that amount you can borrow. That is the meaning of this. Take care. Now the next one. Consider the following statements regarding what? Regarding digital rupee. Oh my God, indeed a hit list topic which everybody keeps on discussing, right? Your CBDC, central bank's digital currency, that is India's digital rupee or the e-rupee or the electronic fiat currency, right? When when any currency obtains a legal tender, it is called as fiat currency. So now digital rupee is actually what? The e-fiat or the electronic fiat currency. So the first statement is, it is a sovereign currency. Well and true, yes. Issued by whom? Of course, the monetary authority, that is RBI, in alignment with monetary policy. Second one, it appears as a liability on the RBI's balance sheet. Yeah, we all know that because this is again a rupee. So when you lend, when the banks lend, it is what? It is a liability, not an asset. So again, the second statement happens to be correct because first one, we all know that digital rupee means it is issued by RBI. And whenever something is issued, money is issued means the borrower has to repay it back. Obviously, it is a liability. So second one is also correct using KC technique. Now, third and fourth, you're not sure because it is insured against inflation by its very design. So now the third statement is an application actually. You understood? So now what will you do? Now use the elimination technique there. You understood 1 and 2 is correct. So see the options where 1 and 2 is together using elimination technique. Option number B and C can be fatafat eliminated. Why? Because it do not have 1 and 2 together. You have 1 and 2 individually. So out of A and D, you have to make a choice. A as 1 and 2, D as 1, 2 and 3. From this, what did you understand? From this elimination technique of keyword elimination comparison called as KZ technique, which I have taught you, the third statement is incorrect. Even if you're not sure about that also, through this technique, you came to understand that it's incorrect. Is it clear? And now if you see the digital rupee, okay, like any currency, they are not inherently what? Inherently insured against inflation. The keyword is insured. That is why it is wrong. And what is the last one? It is freely convertible against commercial bank money and cash. Very true. If it is a sovereign currency, if it is a fiat currency, what fiat currency? Electronic or e-fiat currency. Obviously, it should be freely convertible, right? It makes some sense. So the answer is A, B and C, which is 1, 2 and 4. And that is why it is option number D. And in this digital currency, if you see, again, we all know that the so-called cryptocurrency. This question is also having a comparison with the previous year papers. The blockchain technology, the cryptocurrencies, all these are connected. Why did digital rupee come for our country, India? Because blockchain technology, using blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies were there, but they never had a backing or they never had any interference with the government. And RBI never had a control over it. A lot of problems were there, right? So in order to have a direct control of the RBI only, using the very same blockchain technology, a digital rupee was created, and that is called as CBDC, Central Bank का Digital Currency. ठीक है? So now, having said that, let's quickly go into the next question. Consider the airports. So now, this is again in the context of the PPP, public-private partnership ka keywords, right? I used to keep on telling in class. PPP is a very important Atlas topic. So this time in the context of greenfield and brownfield project ka keywords, they've asked you a question. The first one, Donya Polo Airport, Kushinagar International Airport, and Vijayawada International Airport. Very simple. What is the question? It's a current affairs question indeed. In the recent past, which of the above has been constructed as what project? Greenfield project. So for that, you need to understand what is the difference between greenfield and brownfield. This comes under FDI, foreign direct investment. We all know that investments made from one country to another is called as FDI. So some investments are made on fresh projects or new project to start something from the scratch. That is called as greenfield project. Now, let's say, for example, somebody is investing on developing the existing project. Then, by putting more finance or money or developing other infrastructures for the existing establishment, it is called as brownfield project. So now greenfield means from the scratch, you have to put money. So now if you see, the answer is option number 1 and 2, which means A. Yeah, the third one is wrong because this Donya Polo and Kushinagar are greenfield project. They were freshly, the investment was done fresh from the scratch. Whereas Vijayawada already had an airport and they made improvements in it. You understand? So later it was upgraded to the international status. So that is why the option number 3 was incorrect. Is it clear? So here the most important keyword which you have to notice: greenfield project, brownfield project, then FDI, foreign direct investment. Then after that, the next keyword is FPI, foreign portfolio investors, and FII, foreign institutional investors. All these are the related hit list topic. You can expect questions from these areas for the next prelims as well. So when you do an analysis of the question paper, it is not just question answer. Why these questions were asked? What are the probable areas you have to focus for the upcoming exam? All these things have to be analyzed. That makes a lot of sense when you study, right? Now, the next one. TFR, total fertility rate in economy, is defined as what? Very simple question, direct question indeed. What is it? The number of children born per 1,000 people in the population in a year? Definitely no. This is not infant mortality rate, right? Per 1,000 birth. So definitely no. What is second one? The number of children born to a couple in their lifetime. Oh my god. How many they can produce? There is a limitation, right? Again, no. The birth rate minus death rate. So some people think that this fertility deals with that. Absolutely no. It has nothing to do with the birth or the death rate. It is talking about the reproductive capacity or the age. So option A, B and C talks nothing about the reproductive perspective. Whereas option number 4 makes a sense. What is that? The average number of live birth, look at the keyword live birth, a woman would have by the end of a childbearing age. Very true. That is in her reproductive age. Let's say, for example, starting from 18 to 40 or 45, whatever. What is the capacity of women to produce a child? What is the fertility? If you see, with regard to this, total fertility rate, previously, I'm talking about not now, olden times, it was too high actually, to be very honest. If you see, since 1950, one woman can have up to at least 6.18. That was TFR, the total fertility rate was 6.18, which means 6 children at least, minimum. She had the capacity, I'm telling you. The fertility rate was too high. But over the years, what happened? Starting from 1950 to 1980, 2021 and all, it gradually decreased. And today, if you see, the total fertility rate is only 2. It stands at 2, approximately 1.91. It's subject to changes. 2 children. You understand? So now this total fertility rate, we have seen a decline in the number of what? The fertility rates over the past few decades. From 6.2 in 1915 to just under 2. Number 2 in 2021, you can see the rate. You got it? What are the reasons for it? Civilization development, lifestyle changes, then women empowerment, and also many other perspectives. Basically, lifestyle changes and this empowerment perspective has led to what? The decline in the TFR. Yes? Now, in this particular TFR, you also need to understand the next important or the related keyword of TFR is replacement fertility rate or replacement level. That is, this total fertility rate talks about what? How many number of children can be born to a woman in an entire lifetime based on the age perspective, right? So let's say, for example, currently the total fertility rate is 2 for a woman, which means they can have up to 2 children. Now, the TFR of 2.1 children, I repeat, total fertility rate of what? Of about 2.1 children per woman is called as replacement level fertility. The meaning of that is, for example, if the total fertility rate, if that is less than 2.1, if it is 2.1 means it is called as replacement level fertility. If the TFR is less than 2.1 means 1 matlab children per woman means the generation is not producing enough children to replace itself, which means there is a population issue. But we all know that even today India ranks on a very high level. In fact, they are number one. We've even surpassed China, I would say, with regard to population. Producing is only going on. It's not about producing; it's about feeding the growing population. When that is not happening, the issue of all this poverty, that this sab kuch happens. Okay, so that is one thing we're trying to tell here. Anyways, so now you please make a note of it. Replacement fertility level and the applications less than 2.1. What happens? These are all important for the upcoming exam also. Take care. And from the mains examination also, this is important. What are the reasons? Over the years, if you see there has been a decline, what are the reasons for it? So those who are preparing for mains can also take this as a hit list topic. The next one, with regard to banking and finance, we have a question. In India, non-banking financial companies can access the LAF. What is that? Liquidity Adjustment Facility window of the RBI. Now, we all know that NBFCs, what are they? They're just a company or a corporation which can, accept deposits, but not every deposits. They cannot accept demand deposits, but they can lend. But accepting DD or demand deposit is not possible. We all know that, right? So, do you think they can access LAF facility? And by the way, what is LAF? Liquidity Adjustment Facility in simple terms is a repurchase agreement or a repurchase borrowing facility. In simple terms, repo rate, reverse repo rate, the short-term interest rate, the rate at which commercial banks can borrow from RBI and vice versa. That is your LAF. Do you think NBFCs can, access this repo and reverse repo of RBI? Definitely no. Anybody knows that, right? Because they don't come under the regular banking system. And NBFCs do not form a part of the payment and settlement system. Then how can this be available to them? You understood. So now that is wrong. So automatically using the KZ technique, when one is wrong, what happens? Come to the given options. Option A and C is fatafat eliminated. Out of B and D, make a choice. Either 3 or 2 and 3. So those of you who do not know option number 3, for example, take it. If you see, in India, stock exchange can offer separate platforms for debts. You may or may not know this, but using the elimination technique, since the only left out option is B and D, and both have 3 in common, you got to know that third is correct. So you save a lot of time by not putting your brain into that particular option. Let me tell you that. And now the second one you have to conclude. Matlab understand whether it's right or wrong. In India, FII can hold GSEC. Yes, of course, we all know that. 2 to 3 questions before I discussed you, couple of questions before we had a discussion, right? With regard to greenfield and brownfield projects, which is a part of FDI. And that I told you, foreign institutional investors is also a keyword, hit list topic. And you can see a question based on that. So now the answer is what, my young officers? It is D, only 2 and 3. Which means even the second one is also correct, right? So now, what is G6 by the way? You should know what is G6 also, government securities. It's a very important hit list topic. So when you study money and banking, when you study financial markets, you keep on using this keyword. You keep on seeing this. In simple term, a government security or a GSEC is what? A tradable instrument. What tradable instrument it is? Excuse me. So basically, this GSEC, or let's say the government security, is a debt trade financial instrument. It is right. So now the government always uses this GSEC. Every now and then they keep on using what? The GSEC. Why? Why do they use it, by the way? Because it is issued not by RBI, it is issued by the central government or state government. So basically, a government security called as GSEC is a debt tradable instrument which is issued by the central or the state government, but they do not do the do this trading or auction. Rather, the issuing a central government, the RBI on behalf of the central government, they'll do the auction and they will try raising money, right? It basically, this government security, na, what do they do is they acknowledge the government's debt obligation. And now these government securities or GSECs are not long term. They're always for short terms. Take care. Now, and now when something is short term, do you think they carry too much of a risk? You may say yes, they may carry. But let me tell you, G6, to be very honest, on a practical level, I'm telling you as an economist, G6 carry practically no risk of default. Okay. And hence, they are called as risk-free gilt-edged instruments. So, risk-free gilt-edged instruments is another hit list topic which I have seen in news. So, instead of using that terminology, UPSC has directly asked the keyword G6 to you people. Now, who all can buy this GSEC? Government securities are available for purchase by various entities, like the banks can buy, the financial institutions can buy, the corporate entities can buy, the primary dealers can buy, and even you and me as an individual can buy, and even the foreign investors can also buy. So, how do they buy? The central government or state government is issuing it. RBI, on behalf of them, will do the auction, right? Where they will do? They'll do the auction in the secondary market. There are two types of market: primary, secondary. Why secondary market? Is because secondary market consists of what? Your stocks. They are recognized by the stock exchanges, your so-called SEBI, Security Exchange Board of India, or the NDS OM platform. That is why it is done in the secondary market. Okay. And now, how are these G6 issued? They issued through auctions, I told you. And where do auctions conduct? Do you think RBI will go and directly do auctions? No. It is done electronically via a platform called as eKuber. Electronic eKuber platform, which is called as the CBS, Core Banking Solution platform of RBI. Okay. So now the next question. In India, which of the following can trade in corporate bonds and government security? Very simple question. The question is, who can trade in bonds, corporate bonds and government security? Again, you see, government security keyword is highlighted. That is why I taught you, or let's say I explained to you government securities. So you will have a better understanding in the application level. Insurance company, pension funds, retail investors. So people will think that only 1 and 2 is correct. People will think retail is wrong. But let me tell you, as per the latest current affairs, retail investors is also the right option. Yes, they can trade in what? They can trade in the so-called corporate bonds and also government securities. Take care. Now, having said next one, consider the following statement. Exchange traded funds, motor vehicles, currency swap. We have to select the right answers out of this which can be used, right? So now, 1 second, guys. So which of these is the question is, which of these is a financial instrument tool? So do you think when motor vehicles is a financial instrument? Definitely no. Fatafat, using the elimination, KC, keyword elimination comparison technique, we got to know that motor vehicle is not a financial instrument or tool. So once you eliminate that, using the elimination technique of KC, come to the given codes. Option B and C is fatafat eliminated because you have two there, either A or D, either only ETF or ETF and currency swap. So I think most of the candidates have made a mistake in this question because when I had a discussion with a couple of my students, what I got to know is that people thought currency swap is an agreement. Yes, it is an agreement between two countries for exchanging their currencies, or let's say for doing all the transactions. But it is also a financial instrument. Many people forgot, to be very honest. See, basically, currency swap is an agreement, but it is also what? A financial tool, a tool as well, where two banks are involved. Which banks? Two central bank of countries are involved. Let's say RBI of India and US Federal Reserve of US. You understand? So now in this currency swap agreements, they involve two central banks where they'll be exchanging the currencies at the fixed exchange rate. There are two type of exchange rate system, fixed and flexible. So normally we go with the, in this currency swap, they follow the fixed exchange rate. And how do they function? These currency swap, they function as a credit line from one country to another. And who does that? The central banks of their respective countries. So when they function as a credit line, what happens? It provides a kind of flexibility in managing what? The currency reserve. So that is why, my young officers, even option number 3 is also correct. Is it clear? They are financial tools and instruments. See, why would a central bank get an agreement for exchanging currencies? So for that, you need something. That agreement is considered as a tool. You understand? That is the whole logic here. And what about ETF? Exchange traded funds. We all know that. What is ETF basically? Again, it is a very important atlas topic, as you all know. So basically, this ETF, they are in simple terms investment funds. Investment funds that has been traded where? Again, on the stock exchange. It is something similar to individual stocks. When the trading of investment funds is happening in the stock exchanges, just like something similar to the individual stock, it is called as ETFs or exchange traded funds. And why do you think there is a need for ETF? And why would ETF be used as a financial instrument? Basically, ETF offers investors, whoever is investing, numerous ways to diversify their portfolios, even without having to buy individual security. That is the biggest advantage why ETFs is being promoted, or let's say used or preferred by many people. And these ETF, exchange traded funds, I can tell you that they are designed for what? To track the performance of one particular index. Let's say, for example, the commodity, currency, or let's say a mix of any of the asset classes. Either ways it could be. And now, this particular topic, if you see again, is a very important topic. Why? Because on 6th June 2024, in the very same month, in the beginning of the month, there was a current affairs. If in not in Hindu paper, it was in Economic Times. Take care. There was an article based on Hong Kong. That was Hong Kong has launched Asia's first spot Bitcoin and Ether. ETH here, Ether. Ether ETF. There are different types of ETF, and Ether is one kind of ETF. So Hong Kong has launched Asia's first spot Bitcoin and also the Ether ETF. Why do they do that? They did that so that they are one step ahead of becoming virtual asset investment hub of the region. So the credit goes to Hong Kong for that. So in that particular perspective only, this ETF is important. So even for the coming examination also, the related concepts are important, guys, because in June, in the first week itself, a question was there, a topic was there in the paper, so you can just read more about it. Okay, anyways, now the next one. With reference to sectors of an economy, consider the following pairs. So the question is, how many pairs are correctly matched? So now this particular pattern of question was visible in the previous year examination. They are not asking you to match the correct pairs. Rather, out of the total number of options, 4 options, how many are correct? You need not say option 1 or 2. Rather, if 1 is correct, only 1. 2 are correct, only 2. This pattern of question talks about how many pairs. Okay. So now, the economic activity and sector is there. Primary, secondary, tertiary are 3 sectors of economy, right? In that, primary is agriculture, secondary is industry or manufacturing, and tertiary is what? Service sector. Tertiary is further subclassified into which are the other sectors? Quinary sector and pedal sector, right? So now, storage of agriculture produce. Do you think they are secondary? Do you store agriculture commodities, in secondary sector? Production of agriculture is primary. Manufacturing of agriculture produce, let's say tomato is primary, making tomato ketchup is secondary, that is industry. Whereas storing of them, what? When you make a ketchup, you have to store it. Or let's say when you want to sell in the market, you store it. It comes under which sector? Comes under tertiary or service sector. So first one is wrong. Dairy farm, of course, it comes under primary sector. Primary sector consists of what, my young officers? It consists of agriculture and allied, matlab related activities. Poultry, quarrying, dairy, fishing, forestry, etc., etc. So the second one is correct. So out of 4 options, 1 is correct. Now, mineral extraction. See, extraction is primary, transformation or let's say reforming, that is secondary. So how can mineral extraction be tertiary? It is wrong. So eliminate it. Now, the next one, weaving cloth. Cloth is what? Let's say, for example, you want to produce a cotton sari. Cotton is the raw material that comes under primary sector. What is weaving? Weaving is something that you do in the next stage. If you want to make a cotton sari or a cotton shirt, dyeing of it, weaving of it, all this deals with the manufacturing perspective, which means it comes under the secondary sector of the economy. So the fourth one is correct. So out of all the 4 options, only 2 are correct. So what is the answer? Answer is B. Very easy, right? Only 2 options. Now, another important hit list topic from this area, which you can expect for the coming year, is with regard to energy. So basically, all of us think that energy comes under the secondary sector of the economy, right? But let me tell you, my young officers, energy extraction, extracting energy comes under primary sector, and energy transformation comes under secondary sector. This is very, very important. Maybe for the upcoming prelims also, this keyword can be used like mineral extraction to confuse you guys. Why energy extraction is primary is because, for example, solar energy. From the sun you get it. Now, when you use solar panels and convert them to the solar energy, the sun's energy into solar energy, it is what? Transforming the energy. That is secondary. Some production is happening, right? So that is why these keywords are important. Okay, you can just make a note of it. Now the next one is with reference to physical capital in an economy, consider the following pair. Very easy question. So if you see the previous question and this question, they are from NCERT. That too not class 11 and 12, class 9 and 10. Class 9 chapter 2, human capital. You study, right? Out of when you study that, you study about physical capital also. Class 10 chapter 2 deals with sectors of economy, primary, secondary, tertiary. That is what the previous question you dealt with. You saw, right? So all these are again NCERTs, I can say. Now, with reference to physical capital in an economy, consider the following pairs. Items category. You have to select the right answer. So now farmers plow working capital, computer fixed, yarn use is fixed, and petrol working capital. So we all know that fixed plus working capital, physical capital, type of capital. What are they? Physical, which is fixed in nature. That physical has fixed plus working. So working plus fixed is physical capital. What is fixed? Something that is required all throughout the business or all throughout the production, right? Let's say, for example, you want to produce tomato ketchup, or you want to produce let's say cotton sarees. So now let's say, for example, machinery is a fixed asset. From the day of production to the day you want to close it, if you keep on producing, that is a fixed asset. For that you need a building, that is a fixed asset. Whereas using raw materials into it, or let's say meeting the day-to-day operations, paying wages, salary, all these are operational expenses. They comes under the working capital. To run the show or to run the day-to-day operations, you need some capital. That's called as working capital. So now you tell me, farmers plow, do they think they are fixed capital? Sorry, do you think they are working capital? Definitely no. They are fixed capital, right? Why? Because it's a long-term asset. Anything that is long-term is fixed and short-term is working. Short, that matlab day-to-day you need. Computer, yes, it is an asset. You keep a computer or laptop, it is fixed, right? So yes, it is a fixed capital long-term. Now yarn, what is yarn? If you want to make a cloth, you have a dye and yarn. It's a kind of thread again. So do you think it's fixed? No, it keep on changing, right? So today you can use yarn. Sometimes you can prefer silk. You can use whatever you want, whichever material you want, right? So that is not fixed. It is rather working capital. Then next is petrol. So now is petrol fixed or working? Of course, working capital. It cannot be fixed. If you have a requirement of transporting the commodity what you produce from the place of production to the place of consumption, then you use a vehicle. For that you put petrol. So it's an operational expense. It's not a fixed expense, right? It's not a fixed capital as such. So what is the answer, my young officers? The answer is option number B, which means only 2 of them are correct. Option number 2 and 4, right? Whereas 1 and 2 is incorrect. Sorry, 1 and 3 is incorrect, not 2, 3 is incorrect. The next one, with reference to rule or rules imposed by RBI treating foreign banks, consider the following statement. So this is the question based on CAR. Capital to risk as to risk asset weighted ratio, or in simple terms, capital output ratio. So from that particular area, your Basel norms, from there they have taken it with regard to the treatment of different banks. So now there is no minimum capital requirement for wholly owned banking subsidiaries in India. Again, in this particular question, you can see the presence of an extreme word called as no. That makes you reconsider the statement once again, right? If you see, it is absolutely incorrect. Why? Of course, for any banks, there should be what? A minimum capital requirement. Common sense. So the first one is incorrect. So eliminate using elimination technique of KAC. Eliminate A, C and D. What remains is what? B. And now, second one, for wholly owned banking subsidiaries in India, at least 50% of the board members should be international. That is very true. See, even if it is a foreign bank also, they are functioning in our own motherland, in our own territory, which means we can't completely give it to them, right? So at least a decent amount of people out of, let's say, 10 members, 5 members or 6 members, at least 5 should be Indian nationals. That is basically for our, smooth functioning, we prefer that. And if you see, this minimum capital requirement for every bank. See, if you see foreign banks, priority sector targets in India, they're 40%. So foreign banks, no matter they are foreign banks also, as long as they are put up their branches in India, they must adhere to all the rules, regulations of whatever norms issued by the monetary policy of our country, which is none other than Reserve Bank of India. Is it clear? And what is, by the way, the minimum capital requirement for this foreign banks for India? If you see the initial minimum paid up voting, take care, equity capital for the wholly owned banking, that is your WOB or WOS subsidiaries, it shall be 5 billion. It was actually 3 billion. Now it has been updated to 5 billion. You can just note these current affairs points. Okay. Now, what about the capital adequacy ratio or the capital output ratio? What is the minimum ratio you have to keep? It has been 8% as per the Basel norms. So, it has been 9%. Yeah. Now, the next one. Consider the following statements. So, this is a question. Basically, some of you think it is an IR question. It's a current affairs question from the economy perspective. It is international economics and current affairs. Take care. Because the keyword debt is coming. Government debt deals with economy only. Public debt, right? So, that is why I brought this question here. So, statement 1 tells, if USA were to default, it's a situationary perspective. Take care. If USA were to default on its debt, holders of US Treasury bonds will not be able to exercise their claim to receive payment. Look at the statement carefully. This is a situational question. So now you can see the keyword if. Again, if is what? An extreme word. So now in this particular statement, in spite of the extreme word, the situation is that if anybody is defaulting a debt, here it is America, USA, definitely whoever is holding the treasury, US treasury bonds, do you think they'll be able to exercise their claims? Definitely no. Logically, if you see, they cannot have any of their claims in order to receive the payment. Why? Because they have defaulted on the loan or the debt. So logically, if you see, statement 1 is correct. But what is the second one? Keeping this in mind, the US government debt is not backed. Look at the keyword, extreme keyword, not backed by any hard assets. Next is any, but only by the faith of government. The next extreme keyword is only. So now the next rule is that I told you what are extreme keywords, right? Only, all, no, not, any, fully, etc., etc. If any statement is having more than 2 extreme keyword, especially more than 1, let me tell you, definitely, or let's say 101 percentage, that particular statement will be incorrect. If you see in this particular question, statement 2 has 3 extreme keyword, not, any, only. Definitely it is wrong, no doubt in that. And you can cross check also if you see the logicality. Do you think the US government debt is not backed by any assets or anything? Yes, it is true. There is no doubt in that. The debt is not actually backed by hard assets, but by the full faith and credit of whom? Look at this. Faith and credit of US government. Here the keyword is only. They say that though the government, US government card debt or loan is not having any backing or support by hard assets also, they will have a reliability on the faith and the credit of money of the government. Here they say it is only faith of government. By mere trust of faith, nobody's gonna, nobody's gonna believe it, right? So because the statement is incomplete only, the second one is incorrect. So here the answer happens to be option number C. Why? One is correct, whereas second is incorrect. Is it clear? See, for example, now, if the US, somebody is taking a debt and there is no, has collateral or any security as a whole. Now, if it is only with regard to the faith of government, what if this faith is compromised? What if the trust is compromised? We can't trust anybody in this world. No matter people, no matter institution, no matter anything. So now, when you say only by the faith of government, the risk is too high. So now, though the debt is not having any backup of the hard assets also, the faith and money, that is the credit of US government, is important. Why? Because if at all the trust of faith of US government is compromised by a default, then what happens? There'll be huge impact on the ability to claim the payments. So that is the reason they say, apart from faith, the money or credit capacity of US government to take up that, default is also needed. Is it clear? The next one, with reference to CSR, corporate social responsibility rules in India. Look at the keyword, it's rules in India. Consider the following statement. First one tells, CSR rules specify that expenditures that benefit the company directly or its employees will not be considered as CSR activity. Second one tells that it do not specify minimum right over virtual item spending on CSR activity. So now if you see, the answer is option number A, only one is correct, whereas second is wrong. It is true. Basically, corporate social responsibility is a concept that has been developed based on the principle of what? Trusteeship. Way back and by Mahatma Gandhi as well, right? So now every corporate, you mint money like anything. But even the not only the government, even the private sector, under the context of PPP, public-private partnership, and also the booming of the private sectors, the government said that even they need to have a social responsibility towards the growth of the society. So this CSR tells that no matter any private sector, any business or any companies, big companies, whatever is their net profit, out of that 2% of the income should be dedicated for any social welfare activity. The companies can invest in education revamping, in health, in poverty alleviation, whatever. So this is actually inculcating the social responsibility of the corporates or the private sectors. So then the percentage is 2%. So now, keeping that in mind, here the question talks about CSR rules. Don't you think so? These rules talk about the expenditure. Yeah, they do talk, and they say that the the expenditures, whatever expenditures being made. Let's say, for example, I own a multinational company and I'm spending for educational revamping or reforming of revolution of education. Okay. Now, when I'm spending it, the rule is that the benefit the company directly or its employees, whatever, if they're getting a benefit out of it directly in income wise or whatever, then that will not be CSR. It is a social activity you do. You can't think of getting a revenue or a profit out of it. Let's say, for example, a company is spending on elevation of poverty or hunger. So now they are doing it from their profit as per the rule. 2% of the income is dedicated. From that, they cannot generate the revenue. Then distributing, let's say, 10 food packets or let's say 1,000 food packets. They can't charge 1 rupee from the poor. You understand the whole logic. That is the meaning of this. That is why the first one is correct. It is true. Second one, they do not specify minimum right over virtual items. If you see, the CSR rules actually, they do not address right over virtual item. It is not pertinent to CSR activity. The statement is actually very irrelevant. Okay, that is why second one is wrong. The next, with reference to Indian economy, collateral, borrowing and lending obligations are the instruments of which market? Very, very easy question. CBLO. So somebody who's learning money market and money market instruments will never fail to understand that the CBLO is a part of what? Money market. Right? Because stock, bond, forex has nothing to do with the collateral, borrowing and lending. Even if you do not know this particular options also, from the keyword collateral borrowing, it is very much understandable that bond, forex, stock has nothing to do with that. Whereas the keyword money market, out of the financial instruments, you have capital market, money market. Money market are what? Money market are short-term financial instruments. And your CBLO comes under what? They comes under the money market only. Okay. Basically, for short-term borrowing and lending, we use this instrument called as collateral borrowing and lending obligation. And even by overnight borrowings can be done using this financial instrument called CBLO. And but the point here is you can do all that, but you need to give a collateral or a security. Simply you cannot borrow or you cannot do the transactions. You understand? You have to give a security, which is a collateral as such. And now to add few more important points on this money market instrument, which is CBLO or collateral borrowing and lending obligation, I can tell you that this particular CBLO, okay, it was introduced in the year 2003. And now 2003, this particular money market instrument called as CBLO was introduced by whom? By CCIL. CCIL is Clearing Corporation of India Limited. I repeat, Clearing Corporation of India Limited. In 2003, they introduced it. Why? So that the non-banking entities, they do not have to access what? The non-banking entities will no more require to access the call money market, where that they to receive all the money or liquidity support. For that purpose only the CBLO was introduced. And basically it is a type of money market instrument, as I told you. And through this particular instrument, for example, if I am using collateral borrowing and lending obligation instrument of money market, okay, what I can do is, if I'm an investor, okay, if I'm using this instrument, it will enable me as an investor to earn interest, that too on their excess funds for a short duration, while providing a source of what? While providing a source of short-term, funding for borrowers. That is the benefit of CBLO. Yes. And if you see in the CBLO, what happens is that if you want to borrow, collateral has to be given. And this collateral has to be given in the form of what? Securities or cash to the lender. If you are supposing if I am borrowing something or you're borrowing something, means collateral can be securities, GSEC or whatever you want to give, or directly as cash also you can give. That is also another important point to be noted. Is it clear? And now this CBLO, the next application is that it is a very, very secure and flexible way of borrowing, or let's say lending money in the context of short-term loan. Risk is less. And now why the risk is less is because this CBLO, they have been regulated by the Central Bank of our country, India, that is RBI. Yes? Now, what about the maturity? It's a very short-term thing. And the maturity for this is starting from 1 to 19, 19 days. You can note that also. Maturity is 1 to 19 days. Okay. So that is why I told you overnight means 1 day. So up to 1 to 19 days, you can go for the CBLO. The next one. Consider the following statements regarding Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, the Women Reservation Bill, right? So now, provisions will come into effect from 18th Lok Sabha. There was no guarantee that they will be coming into effect. Rather, they said 2026, if I'm not wrong, right? So the first one is incorrect. So now, very simple. The moment you understand that statement 1 is wrong in this particular question, using the keyword elimination comparison technique, you can understand that option A, B and D is fatafat eliminated. Which means the answer is option number C, only 2 and 3. Which means both the statements are correct. Even if you are sure or not sure about the second and third one also, because of the elimination technique, you got to understand that 2 and 3 is correct. And this Nari Shakti, we all know that 2023, the reservation bill was put forward. 33% reservation was given to the females in multiple domains. And yes, this will be enforced for 15 years after becoming an act. No doubt in that. And they also said that in this women ka Nari Shakti ka bill, provisions for reservation of seats exclusively for SC women with certain quota for the SC caste will also be given, right? So all these things, they are current affairs perspective only. And now in this particular topic, or let's say for example in this particular question, one important point to be noted is that this is not a new scheme. This has been there since 1996. That is, see, to give a reservation for the women, or let's say to give the women reservation bill. Take care. This is a topic of discussion for a very, very long time. Only in 2023 it was put out as a different scenario altogether. But if you see, the first women reservation bill was introduced in Indian Parliament way back in 96. Then, if you see, after 2 more years, in 98 to 2003, the government tabled the bill on 4 occasions, but they couldn't, approve it. It got failed continuously. And again, in the year 2009, multiple protests was done by the government, but still that couldn't work out. Then, in the year 2010, what happened? The Union Cabinet, they passed the bill, and RS, Rajya Sabha also passed it finally. And 2014, the bill is expected to be tabled in the Lok Sabha. And we know, in 14, so 14 it was expected, but again, a lot of issues and all. And finally, somehow, we got that 33% reservation is coming up, but still we have to see, and we have to wait for some more time, taking into consideration the current scenarios. And if you see, this particular topic was in news as well. And in that, what did they say? The Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, they wanted this Women Reservation Bill of 2023 as per 128th Constitutional Amendment Bill to be passed. They were discussing on that. That is why this particular question has been asked. In that, 1/3 of the seats, that is, the bill will reserve 1/3 of the seats in Lok Sabha, state legislative assemblies, and the Delhi Assembly. That is what they said initially, right? In that, exclusive reservation to the females belonging to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes also will be given. So the question asked you only about scheduled caste, but even for scheduled tribe, ST also it will be given. So that is what the provision of this particular bill is all about. Yes? And this is also a question for the mains examination perspective. If they ask you write about not directly, but in a different way. Matlab, over the years, there have been multiple ways to implement this, but why it didn't failed out? What are the benefits of this? You can just prepare the answers based on that. The next one, with reference to Digital India Land Record Modernization Program, consider the following state. First one, to implement the scheme, the central government provides 100% funding. Second, under the scheme, cadastral maps are digitized. Third, an initiative has been undertaken to transliterate the records of right from local language to any of the languages recognized by the Constitution of India. Now, in this particular question, we all know that digital, the keyword digital, using the KZ technique, yes, it is basically for electronic or digitalization perspective for a proper recordical base. Statement number 2 is correct because Digital India Land Record is maintaining records of land electronically also for less corruptions and all, right? So under the scheme, yes, cadastral maps are digitized, no doubt in that. So having understood that, option C is eliminated because it does not have 2 there. Out of A, B, and C, you have to make a choice. Both A and B is also having what? 2 there. From that, you understood that the second one is correct. So now, the first one. To implement the scheme, central government provides 100% funding. Now, many candidates made a big mistake in this particular question, thinking that the first option is incorrect. Let me tell you, my young officers, in 2008, okay, when National Land Record Program was put forward, it was a centrally sponsored scheme. But later in the year 2016, April, when this particular National Land Record Program was revamped to Digital India Land Record Modernization Program, from centrally sponsored scheme, they made it to central sector scheme. Central sector scheme matlab kya hai? 100% funding is done by the central government. Which means, yes, this particular program currently, as for the recent data, comes under what? Central sector perspective where 100% funding is provided. Which means, the first one is also correct. So, automatically, again, with regard to languages, not every rural area people are well versed in English, right? Or in Hindi as such. So, in their respective dialect, local dialects, it will be permissible as well. Initiative is also taken for that. So now 1, 2, 3, everything is correct. Is it clear? So the answer is all the above. This is a topic from mains perspective, land reforms or whatever. And when I was taking the land reforms class, I still remember one candidate asking me, student asked me, ma'am, this is the mains topic. Why are you even, stressing on this? Bola, you understand what is Zamindari, Royatwari, Mahalwari system. It is a part of history, but you just know what is it with regard to tax perspective, the theory perspective. Then out of that, the only single topic which I told was Learn Digital India Land Record Program. It is a current affairs of that land reforms, right? The recent one. And if you see, adding to my surprise, in the current UPSC examination, in the prelims itself, they've asked it. Normally for the mains only they ask it. Okay. But for the prelims itself, they've asked it. From this, what do you understand, my young officers? There is nothing called as exclusive prelims, exclusive mains as far as UPSC is concerned. Everything is equally important for UPSC examination. Is it clear? Now, the last one. With reference to Pradhan Mantri Surakshit Matritva Abhiyan, consider the following statements. The scheme guarantees a minimum package of antenatal care services to women in their second and third trimesters of pregnancy and 6 months post-delivery healthcare service in any government health facility. Look at the statement. Of course, as far as the PM SMA scheme, definitely a care is given to women. What care? Antenatal care is given, but that come only in the second and third trimesters, right? Once the delivery is done, the question tells that 6 months post delivery, that too in any government health facility. Look at the extreme word, any. That second half of the statement has made this entire statement wrong. That second half of the sentence, now, because of that, the entire statement is wrong. They don't provide any sort of, the 6-month post delivery, healthcare services. That is the reason. Now, second one, under the scheme, private sector healthcare providers of certain specialties can volunteer to provide services at nearby government health facility. Yes, it is true. See, it doesn't matter whether you're working in private or government. If you're in private also, you're volunteering. It is your commitment towards a societal benefit, right? Under the healthcare perspective. So yes, there is a provision that if anybody if anybody is from the private healthcare also, you can volunteer and give your services for the nearby government health facility. This is in a way incorporation of PPP. What is that? Public-private partnership. And over here in this private partnership, it is volunteer and inculcating, or let's say involving them for the benefit of the healthcare sector as a whole. What healthcare sector? The government healthcare sector as a whole. Because not everybody can afford the private income, right? Sorry, the private hospitals, right? Due to expenditures or income perspective. So yes, now the next one. With reference to Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandan Yojana. I said the last question previously, right? So you had one more, sorry. This is from the informal sector, guys, a very important topic. Consider the following statement. The entry age group for enrollment in the scheme is 21 to 40 years. So now if you see in this particular question, you had something called as Atal Pension Yojana, APY. Okay. That is one of the most important schemes to support the workers who are put up in the unorganized sector or the informal sector of the economy. So now a revamping of that is Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandan Yojana. No doubt in that. Here also it's a kind of pension scheme given to the people who are working in the informal or the unorganized sector. The only difference is that no matter whatever contributions done by you, the government will do the mismatch, and monthly, once you are retired, 3,000 rupees per month will be given to the concerned people who are beneficiaries. That is the whole, point about this particular, yojana. And now, in this particular Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandan, the entry age is not 21 to 40. See, up to 40 years you can, but 21 is too less, I will say. Sorry, it's too, late to join. A person starts working right after the 12th, for example, take care. Or let's say 18 is considered to be what? The adult age. So now it is actually 18 to 40. Because of the keyword 21, what happened? It is incorrect. So automatically using the elimination technique, A and D is eliminated because they have one there. Out of B and C, make a choice. From this, you got to know that the fourth option is also incorrect because you don't find option number 4 in the left out options. That is B and C. Family pension is applicable to the spouse and unmarried daughters. Definitely no. There is no provisions made under this particular scheme. Take care. Now, the second statement tells age-specific contribution shall be made by the beneficiary. True. If you are joining at 18 or 40 based on your age to match the 3,000 per month after the retirement age of 60 years, you have to do the contribution. So yes, the second one is correct. Third one, each subscriber under the scheme shall receive what? 3,000 per month, as I told you. And when will they receive it? Once they retire. Matlab, after completing attaining the age of 60 years. So yes, answer is 2 and 3. Is it clear? And this is not a new scheme actually. This is a scheme basically to support the informal sector people. Now this is a very important hit list topic for the mains examination also. For the mains examination, you can just note it down. Formalization. of informal sector. I repeat, formalization of informal sector is the need of the hour. Critically evaluate, or let's say critically analyze or discuss. So basically, if we talk about this, because today informal sectors need to be formalized also, because more even today, more than 90% of Indian population depends upon the informal sector, right? So now formalizing them becomes the need of the hour. So that is why this particular topic is also very important. They've asked a question from this particular scheme. Is it clear? And now in Pradhan Mantri Shram Manti Yojana, you can also add a point. You can just, you can just go through when it was introduced and all. You can just go through all those, points and all. Take care. It's a flagship program only for the informal sector, for the informal sector people. So you can just go through all that. So yes, we had a very good discussion, a meticulous discussion, I would say. Also keeping in mind the expected areas or topics for the next prelims or what all you have to focus in this particular session. So looking forward to see you all soon with the with more and more upcoming sessions on economy. So please feel free to put down your comments, feedbacks, or whatever you feel to. Did you really benefit out of the session? Not only analysis, we also had a clear discussion of concepts, then prediction of the upcoming topics and all. So just put out your feedbacks, and I hope you really enjoyed the session. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.